I can't hear it. I can't hear it.
Hello? The sound is not working. Your sound system is not working.
We cannot hear the meeting. We cannot hear the meeting.
Can you hear me? Hello? Anybody there?
Yes, now we hear you. Thank you.
I think he wanted to tell us he couldn't hear.
Yes, that's what I wanted to tell you.
Thank you very much for pointing that out, Dr. Rothman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So no one else wants to speak on the subject of this project on Zoom now that we got it worked out? No. Okay. All right. So I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Nana, you want to lead us off on this one? Sure.
I was, I must say, pretty disappointed that we didn't get a bigger reduction in the palm trees, and especially the very tall ones. I think even Mr. Peterson's photos on his walkabout, taking pictures of palm trees, some of them show, which I don't know how much a promise it can be, that the dead and hanging branches or froths that come down from a palm tree are going to be removed. It seems like they all just hang there and are fairly unsightly. Other palm trees are in our wind corridor. We have something called Windward Road on Belvedere Lagoon, and it's not only windy there, it is windy in most of the east side of the lagoon, and all the banana trees and so on, you can see their leaves are absolutely torn to shreds. I don't consider that pretty or appealing, but maybe some do. So I personally don't understand why force something that maybe isn't natural for this environment. I also question the planting in front of by Lagoon Road. There are, just like was pointed out, 3 feet of planting space, and you have plenty of black mundo grass planted in there, and all the lomandre and the bird of paradise, the palm tree, and how all of that is going to be planted without in any way spilling onto the sidewalk is, to me, unattainable. So I would question if that can be done. The rest of the plantings I've gone through, and they are, I think, 98% tropical looking plants. I've looked them all up, and yes, they do survive. But I still question why this forced feel of a paradise lagoon setting when we are here in Marin County. But enough said of what I think. I otherwise think the plantings are well thought out in size and shape and color and growth habits. The only thing I would love to see is if this 36-foot spa in the back of the property, excuse me, could be somehow sunken down, because that whole area is going to be rebuilt, and it sits at 36 inches. And I think for the rest of the lagoon property owners, it would be a nice gesture to do, to sink it down so it doesn't sit like a cake on top of everything else around and having people frolic in it, but lower the profile of the whole thing. Otherwise, I have looked at it all. I still would like to see the 2 Kentia palm trees that now are going to be wanting to be at least 2 trunked, if not more, on the water. I think I would prefer not to see any of them there, but some other more appropriate tree. But can I make the findings? I don't really know yet. I will wait to see what the other commissioners think about this planting selection.
Thank you. Commissioner Seidel?
That on. So I feel like the applicant and the designer have been responsive to our comments. They've reduced the number of palms. And so I would characterize the landscape design as now having moved from a palm grove to using palms as an accent. And I actually think the reduction of trees on a lot this small is probably appropriate. In any case, it's sort of easy to overplant these lots on the lagoon. So although I don't think the landscape design would be my predilection personally, I think I could make the findings in favor of the design as presented tonight.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lasky?
I also like the changes that you've done. In fact, in the back on the synthetic lawn, you have multiplied the amount of plantings that you have. And I think that's a big advantage there next to the fence on the adjacent house. So I think that looks much nicer, and you don't have as much synthetic lawn. So I think that is a really good addition that you've done. And I really don't object to the palm trees either. I think that we have a lot of styles in Belvedere. And as I mentioned last time, there are big palm trees near the yacht club, and we do have palm trees, as you said. So I actually don't object to them. And I think I like the fact that you're moving some of them back, and you've also reduced the amount of palms, and you've interspersed them with the grasses. So I think that, and Japanese maple. So I can make the findings for design review.
Thank you. Vice Chair Johnson?
Thank you. So I agree that it's an improvement over the previous plan, but I'm also agree with Commissioner Hart. I'm struggling a little bit with the 40-foot palms. I had hoped to see, like, when I think of an accent, I think like maybe 1, 2, 3 trees. So I feel like there hasn't been enough of a reduction. I think also in this arrangement, they're almost being used to demarcate the property boundary. I think typically when we're discussing landscaping, we're doing so in the context of privacy, screening, noise reduction, and shade. And I feel like the way these have been arranged doesn't really accomplish what we are typically looking for a landscape plan to do, especially on the lagoon near the water. I think there are more appropriate trees to use here to achieve that layered look and help screen the house a little bit more. I I think in certain contexts, palm trees make a lot of sense when you have some visual relief in terms of hills or a very long vista. But I just on a flat, small lagoon lot, I just really think that they draw a lot of attention to themselves. So I would like to see a further reduction, but otherwise I think the plan is good. I think it's been improved. And if it's possible to put the hot tub in ground, I think that's a great idea. And I think that the ring light on the fence could actually be very elegant, assuming it's not overly bright. So supportive of aspects of this plan, but I would also like to see a reduction in those 40-foot palm trees.
Thank you. I have visited the site and I've thought about this project with the palm trees, and I'm a bit in a state where I thought we were going to get accent palms, like Vice Chair Johnson just said, like 2, 3, and we have 8 40-foot palms that you're proposing to put in. And though they're not redwoods, it's as if an applicant came to us and asked to plant 8 redwoods in the city and to grow to extreme heights. They're not as bulky, the palms are not as bulky, but it does have the height. The height goes totally against our municipal code. So I struggle with the amount of the palms. I mean, I was kind of fine with 1 palm out in the front. I don't particularly like them back by the water. They are grouped together on the sides of the house. There's 3 on one side and I think 2 on the other side. So they are close to the neighbors. So I'm struggling too with the amount of palms that are still in the project. I'm still struggling with the ring light. I know that it's been said the ring light can be lowered brightness wise, but it's hard to regulate that. What a brightness is for one owner, when another owner comes in and finds out they could have it brighter, they could choose to do that. I'm not saying this owner would do it, but in the future, and not knowing that they were supposed to be maintained at a lower, it's a 6-foot circumference light, which I think is a lot of I mean, I drove by it today on my way here and kind of stopped and looked, and it's a big ring of light. And so I struggle with the ring of light too. So that being said, I wouldn't be able to make the findings as the project is presented tonight for me. So with that being said, Nana, did you have any further comments you wanted to make? Or conclusions?
I did not touch upon the ring. I feel that, yes, if it could be just a soft ring, I can see approving it. But as you pointed out, if it's going to be on a dimmer, nobody can regulate that. And maybe soon we'll have strip lights in names and stars, and I don't know what configuration, instead of just a number or a light or a mailbox. I think till we can somehow assure or whatever that the light will not exceed a certain wattage, I don't think I could approve that. And I would also like to see the palm trees on the lagoon removed. So with that, I can, I guess, not make the findings for this project as presented.
Okay. So, there you are. Yes? Sure, I'll open up the public meeting again.
Thank you. Thank you. To get to yes for this, it seems as though the light ring is an issue. I just want to float this out there, see if you're amenable to it, that we do a mock-up and have you sign off on it at a later date, but let us continue our application. If that means removing some trees, if we could put that in a in a motion, condition of approval to be specific about the trees you want removed. And then if we could set, to be able to do a mock-up so you can see it at night, the intent of the design, and then make a decision on that. Is that something you could maybe fashion a condition of approval? Because we would like to move forward with the project as much as
Sure, I
possible.
understand. I
So I
know
think
it's a
those are the two
landscape
things
plan,
that,
though.
that seem to me to be coming up. So
Okay.
maybe you could
Okay.
do your
so-
magic there.
All right.
Thank you.
So Nana, you wanted the trees gone in the back on the lagoon
On
side?
the lagoon side and the hot tub, if
and the hot
possible,
tub Lowered,
lowered.
because it is up on a deck, isn't it?
It's sitting on a concrete pad.
Oh, it's sitting on a concrete pad.
That's right. And it's nestled in, there's a change in elevation. The house is up at one level and then there's a patio down lower and it's on the lower patio.
Okay.
And we did put a new planting in front of it per the direction of the board last time.
So did you already pour the concrete?
No, we haven't started any, oh, the concrete exists,
Oh, the
but we're gonna
concrete
have to,
exists.
we're gonna have to manipulate it in order to
Oh.
get the spot where we want it. So
Oh, okay, all right. So it's not possible to lower it? Is that what you're trying to say to me?
it's going to put it very close. If it drops 18 inches, it's going to be level with summer water levels, and it gets prohibitively difficult to maintain a dry well
Right,
when you're that close to the lagoon.
right, okay. So you can't
That's,
technically do it, so we can't do
it
that.
gets very complicated to try. It's like a bathtub. And
Yeah,
it's,
okay, I get it.
difficult. Thank you.
Yeah. So the two palms on the back. and then the one in the front. And then you're fine with the ones on the side?
One thing I want to just point out is that in the findings we have to make, it's one of them is native plants. You have over 20 new plantings going in, only 2 of which are native. So are we opening a can of worms? Are we opening the door to other non-native plants that will potentially create an issue?
I think we see non-native, don't we, sometimes? I don't know.
Well, it says native appearing vegetation. So I'm just putting it out there as a question.
I think we've approved landscape plans with a lot of non-native, and maybe Nana can
Yeah.
verify
Okay.
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
I'm
We do, but
fairly
it's just
certain.
it
yeah.
preferred to have native
Preferred
and
to
drought
have
tolerant.
native. Yeah, okay, all right.
There's also an option of continuance should the applicant be interested. There are 2 planning commissioners that aren't here. I don't know where they fell on the project last time, but that's something that they might want to consider as well.
We don't want to, we want to move forward.
They want to move forward.
And if we can come back with a specific DRE, that's one thing, but we need to get moving on this thing. So thank you, though.
Are you okay with the palm in the front?
That to me is
Yeah.
okay.
I think the palm in the front is okay. One stop.
That seems a little arbitrary in that you go up and down there 3s and 4s together. A single is really lonely, but I'll take
that's what you
I'll
showed
take
in-
what I can get.
That's what you have here.
You're missing the point. That's what you gave us that you were planting. If you had more, then we would have considered that. So would you be okay with just the one in the front? Okay, so we can condition the plan on one palm in the front. The ones on the side can stay. and the two in the back are removed. And the ring light has to be illustrated. And then also if you could, I know you say it can be dimmed, if there's some way to permanently dim it, because I've had that recently and we did a test on the dimming and it's done so that nobody can change it.
That's our intent.
Okay. Okay, so with that, those conditions,
Yes, and we also have a condition that says a final landscape and lighting plan shall be
oh, that's still there?
reviewed.
Okay, all right,
So that can be our backup to
okay,
these
okay,
verbal conditions.
okay,
yes.
all right. So, can I have the, a motion with those changes?
I move to adopt the resolution granting design review for exterior and landscape updates at 46 Lagoon Road as conditioned. Do I need to go? Okay.
And I think staff has all the conditions down.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to our next project, 455 Belvedere. May we please have a staff report?
Thank you again, Chair Carapiet and members of the Planning Commission. For your consideration this evening is an application for design review, exception to total floor area, demolition, variance, and revocable license for a single-family residence and attached garage at 455 Belvedere Avenue. The subject property is a 22,000 square foot parcel at the intersection of Belvedere Avenue, Beach Road, and Blanding Lane. In 2016, the site received approvals to demolish the existing residence pool and pool house. A detached 1,011 square foot, two-level garage and studio remain on the site along Belvedere Avenue. The project would demolish the existing 1,011 square foot garage and studio and construct a 5,035 square foot, three-level residence. The residence would be divided into two pavilions and connected by a sky bridge. The garage would be set back 29 feet from Belvedere Avenue and would taper down to 12 feet, 3 inches from the front setback at Blanding Lane. The residence would be set back 10 feet from both side yards and over 60 feet from the rear property line. The lower level of the house would include a 2,022 square foot for the kitchen and great room, an outdoor patio and swimming pool, and a junior ADU and open courtyard. The entry level would include a 700 square foot two-car garage and 2,313 square feet of living area, which would be connected by a sky bridge. The upper level would include an 800 square foot ADU. The ADU and junior ADU are not subject to discretionary review and have been included here just for informational purposes. Viewing the home from the west, the lower level would be set 12 feet below the curb of Belvedere Avenue, and the garage's roof would be set 13 feet above the curb level. To the southwest, the roof overhang would stand 48 feet above existing grade, and the building walls would stand 42 feet above existing grade. The project proposes to construct new retaining walls to support the residence. The wall would reach 31 feet in height on the southwest side. The project also proposes fixed windows and doors on this west side of the residence. From the south elevation, the project proposes sliding glass doors and wood siding across the width of the residence. Stairs will be placed on both side yards, providing access to the pool and lower terrace below. The lower terrace would have a retaining wall varying in height from 22 feet to 7 feet above existing grade. From the east elevation, the project proposes two slider doors at the entry level and will construct a new 6-foot-tall wood fence inside the property line. The north elevation shows the garage and ADU from street level. As mentioned, the ADU is not subject to discretionary review. The height of the garage would be approximately 13 feet above curb level. The project would remove 3 coast live oaks, 2 maples, and 1 photocarpus, as seen in the red circles here, and would plant 30 new trees, including 6 coast live oaks to 25 feet tall at the southern side of the property, 3 crepe myrtle to 25 feet, and 4 sweet gum to 15 feet tall along Landing Lane. The project includes a variety of exterior wall finishes, including vertical slats in a natural cedar wood, light limestone, and off-white stucco. Windows and doors will be made of anodized aluminum in a black color, and the roof's overhang would be an off-white stucco. The project would construct clear glass railings, dark gray limestone walkways, and fencing in a natural cedar color. The project proposes to excavate 1,031 cubic yards of soil, primarily from the northern portion of the site. 882 cubic yards of this soil would be redistributed to the southern portion of the site to backfill the supported and to support the retaining walls. The project would off-haul 149 cubic yards of soil from the site. The maximum permitted floor area in the R15 zoning district is 4,850 square feet for any lot greater than 14,700 square feet. Here, the applicant is requesting a 5,035 square foot residence and is required to have an exception of total floor area. Staff suggests that while many of the findings can be made, primary views from Blanding Lane have the potential to be significantly impaired. Photographs show the recently placed story poles. It should be noted that views from Blanding Lane became unobstructed after the demolition of the residence in 2016. Staff finds it reasonable that these views would be impaired to some degree by any future development on the site. Here, Google Map images show views from the public right-of-way prior to the demolition. The impact from the street would be minimized by the proposed design as well, which incorporates floor-to-ceiling windows, a cantilevered roof, and an open courtyard to provide for vantage points that would otherwise be unavailable with just solid site walls. As mentioned, the roof overhang would stand 48 feet above existing grade, and the building wall itself would be 42 feet above grade. The applicant is requesting a variance from the Belvedere Municipal Code to exceed the 36-foot maximum height for structures in this zone. Staff notes that most residences in the vicinity comply with the 36-foot tall height limitation, including recently approved projects at 1 Blanding Lane and 135 Belvedere Avenue. While the site does have unusual circumstances, including a short curved front property line and steep cross-sloping topography, these do not appear to establish the factual basis for a variance, as they do not appear to be a special circumstance. Moreover, denial of the variance would not deprive the applicant of the ability to have a 36-foot tall home similar to most other residences in the vicinity. Should the Planning Commission be able to approve the variance, staff has included a draft resolution in the attachments. The garage's roof, consideration of nonconformities. The garage's roof overhang would encroach 2 feet and 9 inches into the 15-foot front yard setback. Roof overhangs may encroach into the setback when the building wall and property line are not substantially parallel. The average depth of the setback is at least equal to the required setback, and the setback is never less than 70% of the required setback. Here, the building walls are not parallel to the property line. The average setback is 20 feet, and the setback is never less than 70% of the required setback. As noted above in the shaded area, the applicant has requested a revocable license for improvements on Belvedere Avenue and Blanding Lane right-of-way. These improvements include landscaping consisting of English boxwood to 3 feet tall, podocarpus to 20 feet tall, and English lavender. In 2017, the property was granted a revocable license for improvements in the right-of-way, which included landscaping. This is an image of that revocable license. The proposed landscaping for this project would be covered under that existing license. The project would be categorically exempt from CEQA. And while staff can support many of the findings for design review, one of the findings to grant the exception of floor area includes that primary views are not significantly impaired from the street. And as proposed, views from Blanding Lane will be impaired from the proposed design. Additionally, the irregular shape of the lot does not appear to be a special circumstance to grant the variance. Staff recommends the Planning Commission review all the material, hear from the applicant and members of the public. And should you be able to be in a position to approve the project, draft resolutions have been included in your packets. Thank you.
Very nicely done, Sammy. Thank you. Any questions for staff? I have one. I know that the revocable license we have a current one. And the current one includes a fence, which we know we no longer approve in the revocable license. So that revocable license, even though it says it can have a fence in the revocable license, can be moved on?
I believe that this revocable license would supersede the old one, and there would be no fence.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sure.
So just in terms of the lot coverage, I just want to clarify, is this being calculated over the buildable portion of the lot? Or is it the entire lot? Does it include the easement?
It would include the easement.
Okay. And then the 5,000 square feet, 5,035, that excludes the 800 square foot ADU? Or is that
Correct.
includes? Okay, so it's actually 5,835, including the ADU.
But we can't count the
Yeah, I
ADU.
just
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah,
clarify,
yeah.
just so yeah, okay, thank you.
It's not inclusive of the ADU. The 5,085 does not include the ADU.
Right.
Or the JADU.
Yeah, we can't.
So it's 585 plus 35.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead. Thank you.
Sammy, could you pull up the photograph that showed the previously existing residence? I just wanted to look at that one more time. Okay, so it was somewhat behind the garage. Yeah, okay, thanks.
That looks like the same building with the same chimney, except from a different angle. Can that be right?
Well, the garage is still there.
Yeah, but the low building with the chimney, is that on both pictures, the old residence?
Yeah, it's here on both.
Okay, but taken at okay.
Years, you can go on Google Maps and go back
Oh,
different
okay.
years. So I don't know if maybe this is a different year than 2015.
Some of the photos are better than others when you
Yeah.
get on Google Maps. In the older years,
And
they
the
weren't
sun,
as good.
and the sun is casting different
Yeah.
shadows. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, we can hear from the applicant. Thank you.
Right. And Sammy, can I share the screen? I have a USB drive in here. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Sammy, for the introduction. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Federico Engel. I'm with Butler Armstrong Architects. It's the first time I saw this site, I recognized how incredible it is, and it's really an honor to work on these types of projects. It's also rare when we kind of align a special site with a great client. Scott is back there and his wife, Michelle, are very aligned with creating a legacy type home that matches kind of the splendor of the site. So I think we have, again, this kind of unique alignment between a gorgeous site and what the clients want to do in terms of building this legacy home. And I think we've designed a home that celebrates the view and will also fit in with some of the other notable adjacent homes, including the Gwathmey Siegel House directly next door. There's a Julia Morgan home across the street and several others. Scott, I'm going to continue on you for real quick and overshare slightly here, and also introduce the house as your forever home. You've kind of described how you and Michelle have moved around pursuing your careers, and Jason and I love to think that this is going to be the home that you're going to be in for many years to come. So I should kind of jump into the description of the project here. Despite the amazing site, it doesn't come without its challenges. And thank you, Sammy, for doing a lot of the heavy lifting and the description here. We do have kind of a sloped condition. One is obvious, sloping down to the bay. We also have a severe cross slope in the west direction, and then a slope down Blanding. So kind of three slopes that have proven to be tricky. Number two challenge is the demolition of the existing house in 2016 that has left the property vacant and scarred, except for the two-car garage and the second-story dwelling unit that are tight to the front property line, which we create a very awkward relationship with the street. And third, also mentioned by Sammy, is that very irregular site and property that includes a corner condition right between Belvedere and Blanding, and the side property lines, which are long and actually taper to each other and not parallel. So we've considered all these conditions, and the home is designed with a few key concepts in mind. One is reducing the size and bulk of the house through the use of two main pavilions that are separated by a large courtyard and connected by the outdoor sky bridge. Number two technique is nestling the house as much as possible into the hillside while being mindful of those excavation quantities as well, which come out kind of a net 150 cubic yards for the time being. And we're looking into that as well. And for example, as Sammy also mentioned, the garage, the proposed garage is 3 feet lower than the existing garage, and the new lower floor of the main home is 12, 13 feet below the street level. So again, we're being very thoughtful of the stepping down with the site and the tiering. And then number three, I think, and actually most importantly, we've located these two pavilions in where we think that they fit most appropriately on the site. And I can describe that a little bit more. And sorry, I've fallen behind on my slides as well. I'm going to try to catch up quickly here. Here is just quickly the site plan showing the existing garage tight to that front property line on Belvedere Avenue, and showing how we're pulling back the proposed garage and then siting the house kind of in the widest portion of the lot. So along those lines, get back to my notes. As mentioned also by Sammy, the average setback is about 20 feet from that front property line for the garage. This will create a much more graceful approach to the actual home and a better relationship with the street, enhancing the street for everyone that goes by it. And I know it's a very popular pedestrian street, as we've seen every time we visit. And I know there's sensitivity to the view. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But again, this is a gesture towards giving back to the public right away. As I mentioned, the garage, the second pavilion, is set back into that widest portion of the lot to allow for the most privacy from the two side neighbors and from Blanding as well, that kind of cuts into the site in a kind of a difficult angle, I would say. On the west property line, for the most part, we've increased the setback from the prescribed 10 feet to almost 15 for a good portion of the site. Actually, let me try to catch up with my slides again. So here's the proposed site plan. As you can see, where we have kind of a tighter restriction with the first pavilion, the garage and the ADU, we're at the 10-foot setback. Where we have more flexibility on the larger pavilion, which again is on the wider part of the lot. We've increased the setback to almost 15. That creates that additional buffer with the Gwathmey house, which gives us both privacy and also helps protect the oak trees that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes if I get there as well. The two pavilions are really separated by this large courtyard that functions as the traditional backyard. There is really no private backyard here. We do have a lovely patio and swimming pool, but we do need outdoor area that's protected from the weather that comes from the bay. So that's the intent of the courtyard. The two pavilions are connected by what we call that sky bridge. And this sets the orientation. So as soon as you walk in through the gate and look down the sky bridge through the two pavilions, this sets the orientation of the house directly on axis with the Golden Gate Bridge. It also happens that we're parallel to that west property line. And I think kind of works for the overall siting of the house. One important key feature, again, of the two pavilions as well as the sky bridge is by lowering and tiering the homes, we wanted, as a forever home, wanted to maintain that level access through there. So one can step down from the street several feet into the garage or drive into the garage, go into the sky bridge, and then level entrance into the upper floor of the second pavilion. And from there, one can take an elevator down to the lower floor, which are the public rooms, the kitchen, the great room. So again, kind of looking at kind of the longevity of the structure for our clients. In terms of design and looking at the Gwathmey house, which some people can like it, some people can hate it. There's no doubt it's a very, very vertical house. It's very tall and massive. And our design intent, let me see if I can catch up to our slides as well. Is kind of the opposite. We want to create kind of a very light, floating, elegant home, kind of a two-story home that kind of floats above the hillside. We have the width of the lot, so we don't have to go down quite as much as the Gwathmey house, which is a narrower lot. And to emphasize the horizontals, we have this essentially design element, which are the big cantilevers and the overhead eaves. So they again kind of emphasize that floating element, but also as a south-facing house with a lot of glazing, they provide invaluable kind of sun control. So they really shade the house during the summer months when the sun is high. And then when the sun is low in the winter months, the sun can kind of go into the house. As kind of described by Sammy, there is a lot of sensitivity to the wonderful oak grove along the west property line. This really is the only additional kind of defining feature of the home. It's got the views and it has this row of oak trees. As such, we're really invested in protecting them. And again, we've set the majority of the house 15 feet back from that property line to give them space. There are two trees shown in red, and we have made an update since that original plan that Sammy presented, where we've managed to save one additional oak. So now we are proposing to remove two oaks, which are the two here in red. Those are closest to that first pavilion where we have much more restriction on how we can move it and shift it. One of those trees is deceased and in poor health per the arborist report. So again, we're looking to remove 2 trees and in lieu of those 2 trees, plant 6 additional live oaks on the southern portion of the property where we think it's going to benefit kind of the view of those trees a lot more. I know I'm over my 10-minute limit. Is it okay if I continue a little bit? Thank you. Going to kind of a second concern that's come up is the loss of the view from the public right of way, especially for pedestrians. And I know the story poles, I don't think tell the entire story. So we're trying to kind of describe what's going on here a little bit more, which is because of the architecture and the geometry of the building, we're actually kind of preserving some of that view. It's not quite as massive as it appears by the story poles. So we're preserving some of that view, as you can see from these pretty accurate kind of overlays onto the story poles. You can even see the Golden Gate Bridge, actually both towers, if you squint really closely. And again, that's kind of a gesture in terms of giving back. We also have this courtyard element right there that provides a view from the street to the grove of oaks on the west property line, and vice versa from the Gwathmey house. That house can enjoy the east-facing sun that comes through that courtyard. As Sammy mentioned as well, one thing to consider is also kind of the what I would call kind of a borrowed view. There was a single-family home there and a pretty high hedge on the public right of way that existed until 2016, 2017. Once that was removed and actually the hedge kind of continued to be cut back, that's when the view opened up. So it's been kind of a borrowed view for the last 5-6 years. And we think we're probably preserving more than what was there before. We're also like you to consider that by setting back the garage, again, on average about 20 feet, we're going to make that entire space feel just much more spacious, much more comfortable for pedestrians and for bicycles as well. There's one more item that I'd like to touch base on, and that is the request for the height variance. As Sammy noted, we are prescribed a 36-foot height. We are requesting, we actually dialed it in just a little bit more to a height of 43 feet, which is on the southwest corner of the lot. And you could see it is kind of graphically shown in this little triangle right there. So that is the area of the building that is above the 36 feet. There is a dimension of 48 feet that was also discussed. That dimension is to the roof overhang and not to the actual building itself. The cost of kind of this height discrepancy is really this cross slope. So when we start on the southeast corner of the property, we're at a very conforming 24 feet of height. And as we travel west across the site, there's a significant cross slope. So the topography drops down almost 20 feet. So we're going from 24 feet on one side on the southeast corner to the 43 feet on the southwest corner. Also to note is there's an attempt at tiering and a deck so that you're really not going to feel this full height of 42 feet. It's going to be kind of segmented and stepped down with the hillside as well. That's another view from another angle here. The area exemption, again, going from 4,850 to a little bit over 5,000 square feet, I think it comes out to about 5%. We did a study showing that there are a couple notable homes considerably over the 5,000 square foot threshold as well, including the two I mentioned earlier, the Gwathmey House, which is at about 8,000 square feet, and the Uphill House as well, which I believe is, let me make sure I get 7,000 square feet. And again, we hope you can make the findings in terms of massing, distributing the massing, and taking the view from the public right away into consideration. There's a few more conversations that we've had in terms of night times compliant exterior lighting, maybe some additional landscaping and softening, looking at the public right away and possibly reducing the encroachment, reducing that public right of way, which is called the revocable license here. And I think if it benefits the city to make those adjustments, we'd be happy to entertain them. Good.
Sorry, my mic's not on. Thank you very much. Does anyone have questions for the applicant, for the architect, Federico? No, I just had one question. I was listening very closely, but in your last statement, you said that that it's not at the tallest point of the eave is not at 48 feet, but it's actually 43 feet. I don't know if it went in my brain right.
I hope I said it correctly. Let me go back to the slide here. Right. So the actual corner of the building is the slide to the left, the way I'm looking at it, which is the 43 feet.
Okay.
And then the 48 is to the corner, the topmost corner of the eave and roof extension.
Okay. Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you. Nana, did you have a question?
Yeah, on your first rendition that was sent out to look at, you had a picture on page A 0.10, and it shows the garage with a car in front, not a person like in our package. And in it, it looks like that car is really tilting down towards the garage door.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering if that rendering is the same as we have here.
Let's see. It might be, I have it back up on the screen. I don't know if you
Yeah,
can see
there,
it as
that
well.
one.
I think,
That one, the car
I
looks.
think we changed the car, or is this the same car that you see?
Yeah,
on-
no, it's the same.
Okay.
But in the other photos that you have in the package, I think, it looks, there is a person in front and the driveway in looks parallel. It looks like it doesn't sink down. So
There-
I'm just wondering.
Good, yeah, good observation. There might be maybe conflicting renderings. The actual rendering that's correct is the one with the car tilted.
Yeah.
Because we have a difference of about 3 feet from the street down to the garage. So we are, again, trying to step down with a hillside starting at the garage.
Okay. I walked around today, waiting for the sun to be at the perfect angle. And I took the liberty to go in through the gate a little bit because I wanted to make sure and that the garage itself or the proposed garage is actually that much further in. And what it does, if you stand on the northeast corner, more or less where the gate is, the removal of this garage, which has not been mentioned, the removal of this garage actually opens up because yes, you are taking taking a borrowed view that the pedestrians have had for the last 7 years. But by removing this garage, you're opening up an enormous window of the San Francisco skyline.
Mm.
And that has not been mentioned. And I really walked around and looked and took pointers. As long as your proposed planting on the revocable license part going down Blanding Lane,
Mhm.
as long as that is not overly planted or tall or whatever you would call it, you give the pedestrian, if they walk on the outside of Belvedere Avenue, they
Mhm.
have a sweeping, will have a sweeping view of San Francisco skyline. I thought I'd just give you that.
I'll take it. Thank you, Commissioner Nana. No, it's very difficult to kind of see the relationship because it's such a dramatic change between where the garage is now to where the proposed garage is, and the story poles are kind of partially on the garage. And the hope was that by setting that back, again, we were opening up views. I didn't want to go as far as promising that we were going to provide San Francisco views, but I'll take it. Thank you.
Commissioner Seidel?
Yeah, the packet we received says there's 5 parking spaces proposed. Can you clarify where the 5 are? I see a 2-car garage. I just wasn't sure where the others were.
Oh, there's one on the side.
It is 2 inside the garage, 2 in the driveway just directly in front of the garage, and then 1
Oh, got it.
here kind of on the side.
Thanks.
Seeing no other questions, thank you very much. I'll open it up to
Thank
the
you,
public.
Commissioners.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak on the project? Yes, please. Please state your name.
Good evening, everyone. Armand Atkins, part of the ownership of 445 Belvedere, the home just to the north, or is it the north? So
I
if
get
you're looking at it,
confused. To the right.
to the right, to the right. We want to be good neighbors. We previously owned 455 and we are pro-development. So everything, we want this. Our issue is with Pavilion 2. It's the height and it's where it projects out closer to the bay, where it obstructs our view. It will negatively impact our property value, our privacy. It creates a wall for us. Their initial package, page A0.02, is the only document that shows the relationship of our 2 properties. And you can see how 445 is tucked back. And what I did today is I took some photos and shared it with the group of where the story poles are relative to our backyard, relative to our views. And what you see is it just blocks. It blocks San Francisco. It blocks Alcatraz. It blocks a good percentage of what we find valuable in our home and what the market would find valuable in our home. It would be detrimental to us. And so I'm here to object to the height variance. This is a lovely home. If the courtyard was shrunk and it was just tucked back a small bit, if the height did not have to be as tall, we would love to support this project 100%, but as it is, it's a harm to us. And so if you have any questions about the story poles, the photos are self-explanatory of what would be blocked.
Did you see the photos? Oh, there. So I have a question. So you have the photos here and it looks like you're outside.
That's correct.
And so what rooms are adjacent to that outside space you're taking it from?
Yes, it's our primary living space. So if someone were to come into the top level, what they would be in would be our living room, which would now have a wall through the windows, and our dining area. So sitting there and looking out towards San Francisco, which we value, it's a beautiful view. This is what they call $1 million view, and it's something that we value, treasure, and it would be gone.
So, but you have no photos of being inside the house, like looking out from the window?
The window shot was horrible. It was really the glare, but I could easily supplement and I could easily provide because I was given an email. It's my first planning commission. I don't do this for a living. So I was given an email and I would be glad to take shots of the inside showing where that would be.
Okay.
Moved back, lowered. This could all be wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one, is there anyone on Zoom? Oh.
Dr. Rothman, you can speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is William Rothman. And two things struck me when I looked at the property. And you had it, I think, in the very first photo that staff showed. There is no question but that the flags that are on the story poles, the ropes between them, make it clear that the view of the Golden Gate will be obstructed. Staff said it had the potential to obstruct the view. What a difference a word makes. It doesn't have the potential, it obstructs the view. Commissioner Hart pointed out that she had gone on the property and felt that with the garage setback, it would open up the view. I went on the property, and although it was a little confusing with the story poles and the old garage still being there, I didn't see that it opened up the property to get a better view of San Francisco. And I was with Steve Silverstein, and he had the same impression. One other thing I'd like to point out, whatever existed there before, that was then, and this is now. And it doesn't have to do with existed there before. It had to do with what the rules were at the time that what existed there before was constructed, not what it was at the end. If they had wanted to build a house there at the same time they demolished the old one, there might have been some sort of argument for that. But this is a vacant lot. That is what this is. And what may have been appropriate 70 years ago when the other house was built may not be deemed to be appropriate at this time. And one thing that was people were much less aware of back in the day was the importance of preserving views for the community as a whole. That has come up more and more as time has gone by, and I believe that it is a very valuable consideration. So I do feel that you should take these things into consideration while recognizing property rights, but at the same time, there is a very significant effect on the view of the many, many people who walk the streets of Belvedere. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. That's it? That's it?
That's all.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Seidel, would you like to start off?
Thanks. I did meet with the architect on site. I discussed the project at some length with him and looked at a number of the view considerations. I would, the way I look at this project, I feel like I'm in support of the general concept. I think it's thoughtfully designed. I like the fact that they've moved the garage back from the street. I think the courtyard actually has a nice relationship to Blanding, and I think the materials and shapes are thoughtful. However, I do have concerns with the height at the southwest corner. And I think the adjacent homeowner has just expressed some concerns as well. When I was speaking to the architect, we were actually tossing around just some very general ideas about adjustments that could be made. And so my inclination on this application is to kind of express the areas where I think the design could use some work, and that I would like to see that tall corner in the southwest either mitigated or the variance eliminated entirely. I think it's possible. And then as regards the view toward the south and the Golden Gate Bridge, there's some minor adjustments that could be made, particularly the angle along the side of the property line where they could pull back the the cantilevered roofs that I think could open up the view more. On this particular topic, I'd like to hear a little bit more from the rest of the commission. I think the addition of roughly 180 square feet in the request for a floor area exemption has really brought this to the fore, because to grant the floor area exemption, we have to find that we're not, precluding important views from the street. If the applicant were willing to take a slightly different approach and not ask for the floor area variance, it might make the deliberation easier. So that might be another area that they may wish to consider if we decide to continue this item. So those are my basic feelings. I would be in favor of a continuance, if I can say that now.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Commissioner Lasky.
I mean, this is a very well thought out project, and I think that the materials are very good looking and fit in with Belvedere, the wood, glass, and stucco. But the first impression when you look at the renderings of this, it just, to me, from the street where the garage is very massive. And I know that part of that's the ADU, and we aren't supposed to look at that, but it's there. And that's why I had mentioned to you that the fascia, the white fascia, makes it very imposing and very massive. And it's something to think about whether that could be covered in wood, which make a big difference. I love the open courtyard and the sky bridge because it gives air and openness and light. But it also gives you space that you can use if you wanted to shave off some of the square footage. The house could be moved back. The eaves can be moved in, that we also talked about, which will also open up more view, and it would help both neighbors by moving maybe even the terrace and the eaves in. I think that would make a big improvement. The height seems to me, part of the reason for the height is the huge retaining walls that you need. I don't know whether it would make a difference if you took off that lower terrace. I don't know if that would make any difference. I was thinking of all kinds of ways to use the space, in other words, more efficiently. Whether you want to think about putting the pool in the courtyard, which actually would be fabulous looking, but you could then move the whole house back because you wouldn't have the pool in the front. And I was trying to figure out how to eliminate the variances and the exceptions. So that's one thing you could do. You could also move a bedroom into the courtyard from the second floor and move the second floor back. But definitely the deck and the eaves, I think, need to be made smaller, which would help the Guafney house. And also, I was at Landing today also to look up. And I do appreciate all the trees you're putting in and that you're protecting a lot of the oak trees that that are there now. So I think the design is very interesting, but I just think it needs a little more refinement in the shape and the size in order to have more success in the design. And so those are my comments. And you might, I also think it could be continued in order to get this refinement and these tweaks in the design.
Thank you. Commissioner Hart?
So I visited the architect on site and walked around and had to admit that I love a very similar home on West Shore. And I think the idea of having two pavilions is a beautiful idea. But like Commissioner Lasky says, it also pushes it out into the other neighbor's view corridor. But I went in and I looked, and I guess that was what I was referring to, one of your first renditions to the city, where you have a drone picture taken from pretty high up with the two neighboring properties, showing that both neighboring houses, first the white one to the north of the proposed one, is looking straight at Sausalito. It has, yes, an opening in its deck on the uppermost floor that captures that San Francisco skyline, but it definitely isn't the primary view for that home, nor on the south side of the proposed project. That is definitely facing San Francisco, Golden Gate more than Sausalito across the waters. And this proposed house is straight on Golden Gate. So I feel like they have all achieved what they wanted, so to say. But because of the steep hillside and the proximity, I'm pretty sure that you can't completely avoid seeing each other a little bit, a corner here and a corner there. And I feel the blockage to the house to the north, the white one, it has a very large opening between the overhang and the deck on the south, facing south. So there still would be a lot of light coming through. Some of San Francisco would be blocked. And I think maybe with some, like suggested by my co-commissioners here, with some reduction maybe in square footage or eave width or deck width, that could be brought in and satisfy the neighbors' complaint and wishes for retention of their view of the city. This is the first rendition, and it's a huge project. And I have to say, I don't think maybe even you thought you would come through this in one go, because there are so many little things that can be tweaked. And I know you've worked on most of the neighbors and satisfied their worries. But I think that if you listen to Commissioner Seidel and Lasky, I think maybe a more satisfying house will be built in the neighbors' thinking and wishes. So I would also recommend that we continue this application.
Thank you. Vice Chair Johnson, please.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm in agreement with what others have said. There are certain aspects of this project that I think are very successful and have been very well executed. Generally, I think that the design is really beautiful and very much in line with our design review criteria in terms of the colors and materials. I think the way that you have designed two separate buildings to help reduce the massing is also has been just masterfully done. But I'm also struggling with the size of the home. And I think if you can approach this from the angle of just a smaller, more scaled back design that's a little bit more context sensitive. So working more within the confines of the buildable area, considering street views, impacts to neighbors, I think you'll have a much stronger application. So I think my goal would be to come back with an application that does not require any exceptions or variances. And I don't think you're that far from that. I think with some of the tweaks and suggestions that have been mentioned, you can get something really great that still maintains that square footage that you want. One thing that wasn't mentioned, I don't know if it bothers anyone else, but 52 feet of glass is a lot of glass, and we do consider views from the water and light pollution. And it just, to me, sounds like a huge expanse. So if there's a way to break that up a little bit and reduce some of that, I think that would be great too. But otherwise, I'm in agreement with what others have said. Thank you.
Thank you. I visited the site, met with the architect. I have to say that unusual for me, but I love this design. I think it's brilliant. I think the clients chose a very talented architect. I think it's a very sensitive design. It's very hard. We hear this many times. The property is not vacant. There is a living unit in a garage on the property, so it's not really classified as a vacant unit or a vacant lot. But when we do have vacant lots, people are used to open space, and when something gets built, it's a change, and sometimes it does change the scenery. We are charged with, protecting the scenery. But reviewing Google Maps of what was there before it was torn down shows that this was sort of a temporary gift that the city had. And now we have a new owner, and they want to build a very beautiful modern house. As far as the exception, I think where we run into trouble with that is just that there would be some view blockage. I don't particularly have a problem with the amount that it goes over. I think there's some strategies you can do to get past that. I particularly don't have a problem with the height. I think that due to the unusual character of that one side of the property, that I could make the findings, but I think that other commissioners feel that there's tweaking, and there probably is some tweaking to be done. But in general, other than those few things, I could have made all the findings, but I'm outvoted. So it looks like we're going to continue this. I know that you've taken notes, and I know that you're not going to be able to do everything that was suggested to you. But I think that there's probably just a few tweaks to get to where you need to be, because it is an absolutely beautiful design. I love it. So with that, can I have a motion to continue it to a future meeting?
I move to continue project at 455 Belvedere Avenue to a future meeting.
Second.
And when you come back, can you give us the color? I forgot to ask that. It was the one question. I had so many questions that got answered. Okay. All right. We'll see you soon. Thank you. All right, moving on to our final project at 401 Golden Gate, please. May we have a staff report?
I'm sorry,
What?
Chair Carapiet. I think someone made a motion and there was a second, but
Oh,
then
we didn't
there was
say
no
aye.
vote.
Are we
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Details.
Thank you, Chair Carapiet, the members of the Planning Commission. For your consideration, this is a design review application for a residential addition and remodel at 401 Golden Gate Avenue. The property is 22,623 square feet at the intersection of Pine and Golden Gate Avenue. The site is developed with a two-level residence, swimming pool, pool house, detached carport, and garage. The parcel is situated atop Belvedere Island and surrounded by single-family homes to the north, east, and south. The project would remove 316 total square feet from the existing residence and add 1,029 square feet of new floor area. The project would also construct a new deck, covered porch, windows and doors, siding, swimming pool, pool patio, and outdoor terrace. At the basement level, the project would add 231 square feet, including 121 square feet for a spiraled staircase on the western side of the residence. The new staircase would continue through the entry level, and a 544 square foot addition would be located on the eastern side of the house. The new staircase would travel to the upper level of the home, and an exterior deck would be placed at the eastern side above the entry-level addition. Facing the home from Golden Gate Avenue, the north elevation shows the proposed additions. The new staircase would be 35 feet tall at its highest point above grade, and the 544 square foot addition at the entry level would have a cantilevered roof, which would be 12 feet above grade. The project proposes new windows and doors on all sides of the residence. The existing roofs would remain. The infinity pool at the rear would be approximately 14 feet above existing grade. Exterior stairs would provide access from the entry level's courtyard to the basement level, circled here in red. Landscaping, the project would remove 8 trees from the eastern side yard, including one 40-inch in diameter pine tree. The project would plant dwarf strawberry to a height of 12 feet below the infinity pool, and dwarf pittosporum around the house and courtyard to 4 feet tall. The project proposes a variety of exterior lighting, including path lights, recessed wall lights, step lights, and underwater pool lights. The applicant may want to consider an alternative to the proposed stairwell lights to reduce the light exposure. The project proposes dark bronze windows, doors, and guardrails, cedar shingle siding, clear cedar decking, concrete side stairs in a Mesa Bluff color, and a standing seam metal roof in a dark bronze color. The project would excavate 422 cubic yards of dirt and redistribute a majority throughout the courtyard and existing swimming pool for a net off-haul of 18 cubic yards of soil. The residence currently encroaches into the 15-foot front yard setback. The portion that encroaches would be demolished to bring the residence into conformance with the municipal code requirements. A 2001 revocable license was issued for the property to allow portions of the existing carport, garage, fence, and driveway apron on the public right-of-way. These improvements will not be altered as part of this project. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA. And as detailed in the resolution, the staff can make the findings for design review and recommends the Planning Commission adopt the resolutions attached. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. Any questions for staff?
Okay, quick question. There's a terrace in the front. Is that allowed to be in the front yard setback? Terrace, sorry, terrace. So, and my understanding is that that's new.
Right. If it's at
Well,
grade, then
Is it though?
It's a ground planter.
Got it. Okay, so it's not an elevated, okay. Okay, thank you.
mhm.
Okay, thank you. Can we hear from the applicant, please? Lights just go down. Demi.
Good evening. Thank you all for sticking around this late. I'm Jeff Dorso. I'm the applicant and owner's rep on the project. And Alpna Gupta is here with me, who is the architect for the project. So we're going to kind of tag team this. Our hope is not to repeat Sammy's presentation. We'll try to focus on some of the issues that have come up with the community and the commissioners and staff, and then leave most of our time to answer questions that you all may have. As an initial matter, I think I just want to start by thanking staff and the city and the commission, along with our neighbors. The process, I think, has led to a better project. And we've had a lot of great feedback from staff coming up with suggestions on how we can reduce off-haul and input that we've received from the commissioners and our neighbors as well, even from how we set back certain elements of the project to ensure the trimmability of some of our landscaping and other things. So we're really thankful for that and happy to be here before you tonight. A couple of the elements that have come up also through that process. One of them was the setback question, which just got answered, so I don't have to address that. But Alpna will cover some of the lighting discussions that have come up, also give kind of a sense of the plan. I think with those that visited the site, we've shared really the vision of trying to reorient the home a little bit from where the current swimming pool, and really it's sort of two side yards, but where the current city swimming pool is on that side yard is really, it's designed to be screened, likely from the wind probably, but it's really in the shadows and it's not particularly comfortable and inviting. And the other side yard, on the other side of the property, which has traditionally been very car-centric, it's where the carport is, the drive entry, really reorienting that to a pedestrian experience, because that's really where you live in the home. And I think that's reflected in the current home. When you go and you spend time in there, the sun porch area where the main living space is really the magic place in the home. So continuing that outside was one of the key parts in the design. We got some questions related to lighting. So Alpna is going to go through kind of that as a focal point, just in terms of how we view that, with the pedestrian orientation. The lighting is really also reflective of that in terms of mostly being low. It's all shaded, and then LED focus, of course, and low emittance, but I'm not an expert on that. I'll let Alpna, of course, cover those elements, as well as go through the particulars on the design. The other element that we added and we have drawings for is some questions came up around the trees. There's about 8 trees that are being removed related to the ADU. So we wanted to be clear that we were showing where we plan to replant those on site. And we would welcome, of course, a condition of approval on the project, adding that or making it clear that the tree replantings go on site. So Alpna has that in an updated landscape plan as well to kind of go through, as well as the designs and some of the other questions. And then, of course, welcoming whatever questions we don't address that we'd want to take on. So I'll turn it over to you, Alpna.
You can just wait. I'm sorry, talking to Mike, you know when I'm. Oh, sorry. You can pass it out, but if you have. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Are we doing something?
I just ask, is this a different plan than we already have?
The landscape plan, we've added trees to the ones that we've removed.
Who's this? There you go.
Okay, great. Hi, hi Commissioners. Thank you for letting us speak today. I'm Alpna, as Jeff mentioned, I'm Alpna from Walker Workshop, and we're going to go through the project at 401 Golden Gate. So I think Sammy did a great job at explaining what we're trying to do with this property. Is the owner is very interested in achieving an indoor-outdoor feel to the project. And there is this existing structure, which is a beautiful, beautiful existing home, and it has great bones, as Commissioner Hart had mentioned earlier today. And we do want to preserve that while also expanding the primary living spaces of the house. So you can see in this site plan, we're expanding the living area to open out onto the primary views and also take advantage of this open lawn space. And as Jeff had mentioned, we're removing the existing motor court to change this from a car-centric area to a more landscape-friendly lawn space. We're keeping this beautiful existing pine tree in the middle as well, and locating our ADU off of that. The living space is on this side, and then the stair core on the west that faces out over the street. And then, as you can see on the north portion of the property, we are demolishing that there's a kind of jut out of the structure. So we're removing that to clean up that primary facade. And I can show that to you. It's more clear in the elevations here. You can see the lower elevation is the existing one, and then the one above it is the one that we're proposing. So essentially removing all of those elements, those attached roof elements, and kind of pulling that back out of the front yard setback to have a clean facade. And on this side here, you can see the deck that is overlooking to the lawn area. And this elevation is looking from the lawn back to the primary house, where you can see our primary living space. And then the pool is also taking advantage of those views by overlooking the hill and the kind of the street below. And then on this elevation, you can see that we have the lower portion is showing the existing facade. And again, we're trying to clean up that facade by locating the stair core there and having this kind of primary central space of the stair core opened up with glazing to look out onto the primary view. And I know that something that this was brought up during one of the site meetings. So I do have an exhibit to show how we are planting trees in front of that glazing to provide screening, and also the lighting levels within that space. We typically like to light our stairs with very low level dim lighting and kind of integrated handrail lighting. So we do expect this to be just a very calm, serene kind of space and not intrude on the neighboring properties. And so here is the landscape plan, and in this updated landscape plan, you can see we've basically removed the motor court, and so now we have a smaller drive and 2 off-street parking spaces and the ADU. So in order to
to make way for the ADU, we are removing about 7 or 8 trees, 8 trees. One of them is a mature pine, but we are replanting a pine tree on the other side of the property where the pool is in order to replace that. And then the other trees are fairly small trees, so we are also replacing them in kind on the opposite end of the property. And here you can see this tree in front of the stair core. We're hoping that that will provide additional screening to the trees that we have below on this level here. There are 2 beautiful existing pine trees as well. There's this monkey tree pine, which is very mature, so we're planning on keeping that. And definitely the one that's in the central courtyard, when you walk in or drive into the property, you see this gorgeous open pine tree, so we're keeping that for sure. And then there's also another one at this location facing the kind of the south view, and we're keeping that as well. So I think the intent for the landscaping is to kind of preserve as much of the landscaping as we can and keep with the natural aesthetic and character of the neighborhood. And the only, like, we're, only trying to remove the landscaping that in order to make way for the proposed ADU and parking as well. And in addition to that, I know that there were maybe some concerns about how the pool and how high it is off of the grade. So we are proposing a lot of landscaping in front of that in order to screen that area. So it softens that look as you look up from the terrace below. So, because we do expect that the client is going to be using this terraced area below quite a bit. And also this beautiful trellis, we're keeping that for, parties and a hangout space. So we want to make sure that as they use the space, when they look back up at the house and at the pool, that it's very landscaped and feels inviting. So we're definitely mindful of that in our design. And then here's our lighting plan. As Jeff had mentioned, we are planning to light the project with all shielded, low dimmable step, path lights. And I think the majority of the lights, we've placed them in order to provide safety as you're walking in and out of the property. It's not necessarily to create, this kind of glowing, kind of, emitting project. We want everything to feel like natural and calm and serene. So the majority of the lighting are these smaller path lights. And we do have, I think there was a mention about the lights that are integrated into the stair treads. As you can see in this detail on the right-hand side that we've added to the set, it is a very small LED diode that's integrated in the stairwell. And we're hoping that that'll just be low lit and shine down. And so you see the stairs, but it's not something that we expect to be this like techie, glowy kind of a stair ramp to the upper level. I'm sorry. Yes, and we also, I think in the earlier scheme, we had that light running the full width of the tread, and we've now reduced it to a 3-foot width. So essentially just lighting your pathway as you're walking down. That's what we're hoping. That's what the intent is for it. And then these are some of the diagrams that Sammy went through. And I want to talk a little bit about the materials. The materials that we chose for this project, we really wanted to preserve like the natural beauty of the neighborhood. And so we took inspiration from a lot of the neighboring houses, and we're replacing the painted wood siding with this natural cedar shingle style siding, and using clear cedar for the decking. And then the majority of the stone, like there's a lot of stone on the property that creates these retaining walls. And it's this beautiful old stone that's, I think it's by Italian masons, it was installed. So we're planning on preserving all of that, and anything that we need to remove to make way for the project, we're actually gonna reuse them. And you can see that in some of the renderings where we have some new walls for our stairs, we're planning on reusing as much as we can and just move it to make new stairs for the project. And then we have the kind of the dark bronze elements to tie everything together. And that's also the dark bronze on the divided lights for the window system as well. And here are some of the renderings of the project. This shows you the view of the living room and the deck. Here's the stair core in the bottom left and the kind of the pool area as well. You can see the screening in front of the pool. And then I have, because I know since there was a question about that stairwell, we did prepare an exhibit to kind of take a look at that area. So you can see in this section here that even though the stairwell is tall, there are quite a few trees that are already planted down the hill that block the view from the street level looking up. And then we're also planning on planting a new tree in that corner as well. And then the lighting that we're thinking about using is going to be very minimal, just to light the stair pathway. So a few wall sconces and downlights, and then also an integrated LED in the handrail. So we do intend this kind of stair core to be a very minimal soft space, unlike the kind of other areas that are going to be used more frequently. And yeah, I think, thank you for the time. I think that's it.
Sorry. Thank you. Does anyone have questions for the applicant architect? Yes?
I
Wait,
I have a few light questions,
Okay.
lighting questions, sorry. What are you proposing to have in the ceiling of your roof over your breezeway or walkway all around the house? What in there, under there? What do you have any lighting in there, or are there lights on the house lighting up the deck underneath, or?
So typically we would keep the lighting on the outside deck pretty minimal, actually.
Which means?
I think that if we do some lighting there, we will do recessed spot lighting.
Okay.
That's not showing though, right?
Right, that's not showing on the drawings.
Nor at your
Mhm.
entrance to the house. You have no light around the door, entry door, or actually on any of the doors coming out to your wraparound deck.
So for the doors, we're using the path lighting to light that area.
Path lighting.
The Targetti
Yes,
for the doors?
for the path lighting leading up to the doors.
Yeah, but I'm
And then
talking
the
about.
minimal, and then the recessed lighting in the deck overhang.
Okay. Also, the path light, the Targetti, the Mr. BO, you have it in the catalog. Unfortunately, I had to go in. It would have been helpful if maybe those details would have been here, but they
Okay.
come in different sizes, 16 inches, 14 inches, 41 inches. They come in really vary,
Right.
and then they're flat top, they're angle top. So you have a lot of different colored lights that are not, it just gives the maker's name here.
Okay, for those as well, we're planning on using the shorter ones, the 16
Okay.
inches, and the flat top, the one that's shown in this drawing here.
Okay. And the same for the little one.
Yes.
Okay.
And that top on the Mr. Bow can't be adjusted?
I'll have to look into
Okay.
the details for that.
Also, I didn't understand what you said about the strip lights under the stairs going down to the party center. You said that you're going to shrink the width of it, or what did you say?
Yeah, so actually on the plans that were submitted, those stairs were running the full length
Yeah.
of the tread. And we did, in this latest scheme, we've pulled that back from either edge to provide a shadow line. And so now they're 3 feet wide which is intended to just light the clear path as you're walking down the stairs.
Could you imagine doing it every third step instead of every single one having that?
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Or put it on the side so people below on Belvedere Avenue don't see the staircase to have.
From below, okay.
That was it for lighting for me.
Okay, somebody else had a question. Ashley, is that you?
Yep. For the glass wall up by the staircase, is that going to be tinted glass?
So we have specified a low solar heat gain coefficient glass as well as a low U value glass. So it does have, it has minimal light emittance on the inside, but it's not actually a shaded glass, if that's what you're asking.
So it-
Yeah.
Clear. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? In that, what Ashley was just talking about, in that glass wall there, that's the staircase, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what kind of lighting are you going to be using there?
In the staircase?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here we're looking at these wall sconces on the interior. These are all interior lights.
Oh, these, I don't have this page.
This was an exhibit we just prepared.
Oh, okay. I was looking for it because I was trying to see what it was saying. So those are interior lights?
Yes.
Oh, I thought they were external. Okay. All right. So I just want to clarify, because this is very important, is that roughly you're cutting 400 and some cubic yards. And you're going to not off-haul any of that except for 18 cubic yards. So you're going to keep all the 400 cubic yards of dirt on site during the construction and use that for your fill,
Yes.
for your retaining walls. And you're only going to off-haul 18 cubic yards, which should probably be about 2 dump trucks. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the intent. Mhm.
That's correct. Not
So
just in
when
the-
you say that's the intent, what does that mean? Does that
That's-
mean it could change?
No, that's what I was clarifying.
Oh, okay. All right. I just want to make sure because
Yeah, it's correct. So that, in that, I mean, I would recognize staff for helping. Initially, the offload was much greater and we worked with them on ways to help, obviously with Altman's team.
yeah,
to-
because we're mandated by city council to watch that. That's why we want to make perfectly clear.
Yes. so
where we're at.
So that was a conscious effort, and again, one of the improvements I think we're able to make.
Okay. And then I did have one question on page RO.08. And this is, you see it a little bit in your other plans, but this kind of gives it a little clearer, is that underneath the pool, you're supporting that with big round concrete pillars, like
Mhm.
on a freeway ramp.
Yeah, on piles.
And those pillars can be seen from the street.
Well, as you
'Cause I
can
see
see,
them here.
right in this, yeah, we are planting in front of those with the dwarf strawberry.
Can you bring up the dwarf strawberry? I mean, this is a concern for ownership because the primary outdoor gathering space is actually right below the pool. So screening those caissons so that you have a nice green screen there as you're going up the steps, it's like a primary path of travel. We want to make sure that's not visible on our property, first of all. And then even with, there's quite a bit of the property below that. I'm not certain whether it's visible or not from the street, given the angles. We'd have to go check that. But notwithstanding that, from just the property, from our perspective, it's important that that gets screened because that's one of our primary outdoor gathering spaces.
Okay, because we had one other project that we approved with those freeway on-ramp pillars. And we're told never to do that again. So the screening on that's going to be very important. And then let's see, what else did I have? I know we can't talk about it, but I'm going to ask, and I don't know who should be the person to answer, if it's staff or the applicant, but this also has a JADU that they're installing, and they're going to deed restrict it. So I get that. What are they deed restricting it to? Have they, when is that? How does that work? Anne? Rebecca?
I was just going to say that I don't, was not aware of that component of the project. However, normally it would require a unit be rented only to people of affordable,
Correct. I know.
affordable to a certain level of, with a certain level of income.
Right. So there's, as we all know from the housing element, that there's several levels of affordable housing.
I would defer-
Moderate, low, very low.
I would have to defer to planning staff on that.
Okay.
I have not talked to the applicant about the deed restriction, but I think in order to get that JADU, it has to be deed restricted to low or moderately low, and that's up to the applicant.
Okay. And that's done before, because it's tied into this project, because they're getting the new ability to use that square footage elsewhere. So, and I know we're
I
not,
think
we have
would-
no comment on it. It's all great. I'm not objecting to it. I just trying to understand how the process
Yeah,
works.
well, this is a new process, so off the top of my head, I would make sure prior to issuance of building permit that the deed process was in place.
place.
I don't know how long it takes with the county, if it's going to hold up a building permit for 3 months, as long as they were showing in good faith that they were moving forward with the deed.
Yeah, they should be able to record in a day
Sure.
once it's drawn up.
Sometimes things take longer. at
It's the
county.
lawyers that sometimes delay it.
Right. No comment.
Okay, so that was one question that got answered. Okay, so those were my questions. Anyone else have something that, Nana?
I still have one more light question, and you showed the handrail on the sheet of paper we saw here. Do you see having that light in a handrail continuous, or is it just where they have their bigger poles that secure it to the ground? Or where are you intending to put the light in a handrail?
Yeah, so that would be continuous on the interior only, on the interior stair.
Interior
And shielded, yes. That's a
around
detail.
the whole house or in the garden or
Just in that stair core.
going from the party center up? Or the
From,
the gazebo or whatever. It's a
so it would be located on the handrail inside the house in the stair core, and that's the only location.
Oh, in the stair core.
Yeah, these are, yeah, we were, these light fixtures on this sheet are trying to exhibit the low minimal lighting that we're planning on using at that stair core, because we understood that that was potentially a concern.
Oh, that would have been a good sheet to have. Because I thought it was outside
Me too,
lighting. I
that's
was
why I
very
asked.
confused.
Yeah.
Sorry for the confusion.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's good. We got it figured out.
It was two different lighting circumstances. We were trying to show the
So-
reductions in the front stairs.
So when you are on the topic of minimal lighting, I think the lighting that you say you are going to propose to be in the ceiling of the whole, the roof over your walk around, those recessed lights will be seen from anybody down below on Belvedere Avenue and on the little, what's the little? Pine. Because when you look below and you look up, you will see all these lights. So it would probably be better if you had lights on the house.
Yeah,
That
no.
light,
We're at question time.
sorry?
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there anyone in chambers that would like to speak? Seeing no one? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission to discuss. Vice Chair Johnson, would you like to lead off?
Thank you. So I have visited the site and reviewed the plans, and this is a beautiful old home, and like Nana said, it has really good bones. And I think these are really thoughtful and sensitive changes that will just make it more modern and livable. I think it's absolutely makes so much sense to me to kind of shift where the living area is happening and add that kind of central living area and move where the pool is and kind of just shift the direction of the home, because you're really missing out on so much with where things are placed now. I'm generally very supportive of the plan. As we discussed, my one concern was really just that glass wall and light pollution. I do appreciate that the tree has been planted there. And I'll be interested to hear what others have to think about that wall. It's a nice detail for the, from I think inside the home, but I do wonder about the size of it from the exterior. And then it looks like we had discussed just a 1-for-1 tree planting plan when I was there. So it looks like on the new plan, that's what you're doing. And I wasn't totally clear if you're taking some of the trees that are there now and moving them, or is it just the one tree that you're moving? But regardless, I think we want at least one tree for everyone that's being taken out. So in terms of the lighting, I think it can probably be cut back a bit more. I don't know if the strip lights are allowed, if that's something that is even in our code. So I would personally prefer to see something in the wall there, so it's not creating excess glare there. And then something I also mentioned when I was there, I just, you're doing so much work on this, and I think it's really well done. I hate to see that carport area get left out. I think it would really benefit from a low retaining wall just to make it a little bit safer and more usable. So something to think about. But overall, I'm supportive of this project, and I think it's a really nice update to a beautiful home. So I can make the findings. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lasky?
I was so happy to learn that that beautiful monkey pine is remaining, because it's such a special tree, and I was very concerned about it. And I think everybody in the neighborhood always appreciates that. And it's very good to know. I did not know that you could get a tree in a 108-inch box. So that's good for me to know, because you're bringing, that's a fully grown, I guess you have to bring that in a crane, correct? But that's nice that you're putting in some fully grown trees.
That's okay.
So that's really good to know. I really don't have much to say about this project. I think that it's such a tasteful and respectful treatment of this wonderful heritage house, and adding wonderful outdoor livable space to it, in addition to adding in an ADU and a junior ADU, which is a great benefit for everyone. So I certainly can make the findings. I think it's a great treatment, what you did, and with all your attention to detail and to make it so livable. So.
Commissioner Seidel?
Thank you. I'll try not to be too redundant with what the other commissioners have said, but I want to try to put it in my own words, because I think this is a really thoughtful repositioning of a house with Belvedere character and historical overtones into a much better, updated, contemporary design. The site planning is thoughtful. It makes complete sense, as has been mentioned, to create the outdoor area where the large turnaround is. That area is going to have wonderful views. So I think from a planning standpoint, it makes sense. But beyond that, I'm very intrigued with this floating porch roof. It's taking a traditional element, wrapping it around the house, but it doesn't have columns. I'm going to probably go down to the building department when you do the drawings and see how you engineer that whole thing. But I love the floating character of that roof wrapping around the house. So kind of taking a traditional element that you might find on a house like this and making it contemporary. And then the rest of the cleanup that you've done to the forms of the house by selectively removing dormers, changing windows, makes it into a really elegant design. And the materials are, I think, are well chosen as well. I will just comment, I'm comfortable with the large window at the stair. I think it's an interesting element. Thank you for providing the additional information on the interior lighting. I think with the trees in front of it and the lighting plan that you've presented, it should work well. So I'll be able to make the findings in favor of this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Hart?
I had a few more questions, but I guess I can try to answer them myself.
Well, you can ask and I'll open up the public meeting that can answer.
Okay, on page A2.03. The proposed elevation west. On the side where you are removing what is now the entrance to the kitchen, there on that wall, you see the little handrail going up to the steps to the future entrance. And right above it, you see the corner of what I assume is the wraparound roof. If you go straight over to the other side of the building, you have at exactly that height, you have another little roof peeking out, a small one. But then above it, you have a huge one, which I assume is the corner rendering. And I'm just wondering, are there two different roofs or did you just forget to erase one?
Actually, what I think what you're seeing, I think what you're seeing there is the roof overhang of the ADU, which is behind the property. Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay. The lighting, as we discussed here, on the staircases, both going from the wraparound deck into the sun deck or the patio deck, or west side of the stairs.
So they check. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, yeah, we can do that.
And those lights you have on your lighting schedule here, they don't look like they are covered. They look like they're just.
Sorry, which light fixture? The pool? Right, okay. So the kind of the light itself is inset. And then there's a shielded. No, you don't see the light bulb. It's all. It's right. very bright.
And then we do apparently are planning to put test lights on the whole wraparound, which I would love for you to rethink. So when
Okay.
people come from Pines or down on Belvedere, but it's a huge wraparound.
Mhm.
there. And when that gets lit up, it's
Right, yeah, so we can rethink that and revise that. I don't think that's, yeah.
Otherwise, I
That's-
have only traces to do. I think for the colors, materials, inside, I've taken these small rooms and opened up and living room. Looks like, you know, things you don't even have things to look at. Unbelievable if you can engineer that one also. The only thing that which is a big one, and that's the location of the pool. I feel like the pool is doing what probably we don't want, and that is restoring the natural slope of the land. And you come out 11 feet from more or less the natural grade. Yes, it's been worked and there are the edges and rose beds and stone walls by the local gardeners and so on. So maybe it isn't, but you are altering it greatly by having structure over space. And I'm trying to play around to see where we could put that would have such a impact. Visually, it is a beautiful location. So that's what definitely that would be my only thing that could be changed. But I feel none of my so I will hold on to my final making the findings. That's what otherwise, I definitely.
Okay, thank you. So I visited the site. I was unable to meet up with you at the site. I agree with my fellow commissioners in that the design you've done is very sensitive to the site. And the landscape plan definitely needs or not the landscape plan, but the lighting plan definitely needs a lot of work, which it'll just, if approved, it'll just be subject to a final landscape and lighting plan. But in addition to what Commissioner Hart said, that the pool lights also, rather than facing out to the street, should be put on the other side so it faces back. What we're looking for here is that Belvedere, especially on the island, is a very dark environment. And when you introduce too much lighting, it becomes a beacon. And it's surprising, you don't think someone's going to be bothered by it, and it could be a street away you never thought about, and you start getting complaints. So we're very sensitive to lighting. I could not approve the strip lighting in the stairs at all. It would be like a runway looking up from Belvedere Avenue. I also agree that I think recessed lighting in that overhang is probably something that's going to draw attention to the house and cause it to become a beacon on the hill. And my other concern with the project was also just the pool location, as Commissioner Hart said. It's 14 feet from grade. It's a little bit more from down below on the street. And I would, I don't think that there's enough support on the commission not to allow it, but I would want that, I would not want to see the freeway pillars at all, whether it meant that you put in lattice and shielded it completely or not, because it's going to be very visual and obtrusive. And that's the one thing that bothered me and made me feel that I couldn't find the findings, because I thought that it's just too high up in the air. I understand they're trying to get a view of Golden Gate and the bay. But not every house deserves a pool with a Golden Gate view when it becomes obtrusive. I know you have plantings there that are going to grow to a maximum of 12 feet high, more like, I don't know if it was 10 to 12 or 8 to 12 feet, which would not completely block the underpinnings of the pool. So with that said, Nana, did you want to add another comment?
No.
Okay. So I don't think, other than conditioning on the for the final landscape plan, which is already there. And then that would include making sure that it was a 1-for-1 tree replanting for tree removal. So may I have a motion, please?
First, I think I should say that I can make the findings then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I move to adopt the resolution granting design review for a remodel and addition to the residence at 401 Golden Gate Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, thank you. Congratulations. And we'll work on the lighting plan. There's a lot of work there. Okay. And I think that's it. So we're going to adjourn.
Early.